I agree that no one has to give any evidence for their belief that there are no fairies under the house. And the reason is because there is no reason to believe that there might be some fairies under the house.
Don't you just love it when somebody undermines their own argument?
They do have a belief. It's absolutely evident.
No, it's a non-belief, it really is. What we do have is a contrary position. You can be pro-abortion or anti-abortion. You're not believing in abortion or not believing in abortion. See, but what you have in religion is belief. Why? Because there's no facts. So what you have as the antithesis to that belief is a contrary position, not a belief.
From what I understand, England has rugby teams. Regarding the question of which rugby team in England is the best team, I have a non-belief. I can't even enter into the discussion because I have absolutely no information, so I am not capable of forming an opinion.
Okay, your analogy of the rugby teams fails. It just fails. Because you don't have personal knowledge of rugby teams in England, it's not the same type of argument. You're not going apples to apples here. You're going apples to oranges. Let me explain why. Rugby teams are real. England is real. What you're postulating, a God in the sky that created the universe, is imaginary. And so you have to use something else that's imaginary. We've even given the religious community a wonderful comparison to use, and that's the flying spaghetti monster. So if you want to say, well, I don't believe in the flying spaghetti monster because I believe this other monster created the universe, then that's your choice. You can do that. But know that you have to compare apples to apples, to imaginary things, or to real things like rugby teams. You can't do one of each. It's not a mix and match.
But when it comes to the question of God, atheists have entered into the debate. If they have entered into the debate, they are advancing positions. If they're advancing positions, then they're communicating convictions, and if they're communicating convictions, they're relaying their beliefs.
No, we're not relaying convictions. We're not postulating things that can't be proved. We throw out things that are called, what's that word? Four letters, four letters. Starts with an F. Facts. That's it. Facts. See, we have facts based in evidence. And I know y'all ain't familiar with that kind of stuff because you only got one book to go on. You know, that circular logic thing of God wrote the book. Why is the book real? Because God says it's real. Why? Because God wrote the book, you know. I know you're working with limited stuff here, and I appreciate your efforts. I really do, because you're really trying to think this thing through. It's not your fault that you're failing massively on it, because you have limited resources when you're debating the religious side. You just don't have things like facts, evidence, proof, legitimacy. You don't have anything, and so it's kind of hard to argue a point when you are trying to go uphill on roller skates.
So they actually hold a belief about God, and that belief is that he does not exist.
Okay, and then you go immediately into saying that, again, that we have a belief in no God. And again, I have to reiterate, no, it's something based in facts. It's like saying the sky is blue. Well, why is the sky blue? Look, it's blue. It just is. Whether you want to believe the sky is blue or not is not open for debate. The thing that the atheists are trying to do is give you the facts. Hey, look, the sky is blue. And you're going, I don't see a sky. I don't see it. Nope. No sky here. And that's not our fault. That's your fault. If you refuse to look at the facts that contradict your scripture, if you refuse to pay attention to the evidence that completely maligns and undermines your arguments, that's not our fault. That's yours.
The point was made about believing in fairies, or rather rejecting the idea of belief in fairies under the house. I agree that no one has to give any evidence for their belief that there are no fairies under the house. And the reason is because there is no reason to believe that there might be some fairies under the house. So just a dismissal of the idea or a rejection of the idea is completely appropriate.
Boy, you can almost see the light bulb go off when he says there's no reason to believe there's fairies under the porch. You can almost see the light bulb go off going, is that what it's like to be an atheist? Is you just simply don't believe? Because there's no reason to believe? Because all the evidence and facts point directly away from every religion. Is that what it's like to be an atheist? You can almost see that bubble pop up.
But that is not the case with the existence of God. Look at 99% of the people in the world believe in God.
Okay, first off, stop pulling numbers out of your ass. Only 63.5% of people on the planet believe in a God of any kind. So 99%, you're pulling that straight out of your ass. And of course, I pulled my number out of my ass too. It's because I'm too lazy, but I'll admit it. Okay, let me give you another statistic. 72% of people in the United States, male and female, believe that the abortion laws as they stand right now are just fine. In other words, they are pro-choice. So because the majority of people in the United States don't believe in your pro-life bullshit, that means you should just give it up, right? Gee, most people believe that abortion laws are just fine, that women have the right to choose to do whatever they want to their own bodies. So you should give up your position, right? Just because. Majority rules, right? Is it way back when in the olden days, like biblical olden days, everyone, 100% of the people believed that the earth was flat. They believed that there was sea monsters. They believed that the blue in the sky was actually water. They believed that the stars were pinholes in a blanket of night. You see what's wrong with belief versus science? Are you beginning to get clued in now? Is that science relies on the facts and evidence, which proves our earth is round. which proves that the blue in the sky is merely a trick of the light, the wavelength of the light, refracting off the surface of the atmosphere. Science shows us that those are actually stars with planets, and billions upon billions of them at that. They're not pinholes in a blanket of night sky. This is what science does for us. This is what reality does for us. This is why you don't have to have an active non-belief in something. You disregard it as stupid because it's stupid.
If you hold a point of view that is different from 99% of the people in the world, if you reject a fact that seems to be evident to almost everybody, then you bear some responsibility to give an accounting there.
Yes, I agree. We do bear a responsibility to show you the evidence, which I've just done in the previous little segment there. And not only that, it's every science. It's taxonomy, it's astrology or astronomy, it's everything, even carpentry. You know, we couldn't have satellites in orbit without science, without knowing that the earth is round, without making calculations due to the roundness of the earth. And yet the Bible and the Quran and many other texts of the same time period assert that the earth was flat. And indeed, at some point, 100% of the people on the planet felt that the earth was flat. And then one person said, hey, no, look, here's the evidence. I believe it was a guy in Egypt even, said, here's the evidence, and laid out some poles and measured the sun and the shadow and stuff and said, no, there's definitely a curvature. And it slowly got accepted. See, that's where we're at now, is we're gaining the acceptance now that there is no God. If you want to remain a flat earther, modern day, for the rest of your days, that's fine. But just know that your children and your children's children will have the facts, will have the evidence, and will not have a God.
And I guess my simple challenge to them would be, if you have a non-belief, you wouldn't be in this discussion because you have nothing to talk about. You have a belief, and your belief is contrary to what almost everyone else holds to be true with reason, and therefore you have an obligation to address that with something from your side instead of just a simple shrug.
So you seem to think that because I don't have a belief, then I must have a belief, because otherwise I wouldn't be in the discussion. Well, as I mentioned before on the state of abortion, I believe a woman has the right to do with her body what she wills. And the religious conservatives in my country, the United States, which probably includes you, want to revert women to using coat hangers in back alleys because you're so short-sighted and so doctrinated and so close-minded that you can't for 1 minute grasp that someone might do something illegal if the law changes. And then what's your attitude towards those people that do break the law and still have a back alley abortion? Oh, well, they're sinners anyway. They deserve everything they get. You people are sick, mentally ill. Mentally ill. And it makes me want to throw up every time I encounter one of your ilk. That is why I have an opinion. Because you're trying to control the life of my wife, my daughter, my cousins, my sisters, my aunts, my uncles. You're trying to control everyone's life with your 2,000-year-old pile of BS. And it's not gonna wash anymore. I don't have to have a belief to fight you on your beliefs. All I have to do is have a heart, is have a brain, and have some compassion for my fellow man, and want them to be better than the 2,000-year-old hole-pooping ancestors that we came from.